Hello children. In this video lecture, I will explain you chapter 3 of Hornbill. Our chapter 3 is Discovering Tut, the Saga Continues, written by A.B. Williams. Anne Williams or A.B. Williams is a former senior writer for National Geographic magazine and online news, where she covered the world and all that's in it for almost 3 decades. The specialized in archaeology writing features that took her from Egypt to Alaska, a monthly piece for the Ancient World section of the magazine, and news stories on the latest archaeological discoveries. These were the information about the author. Now, we will know more about the chapter. The story deals with the mysteries and various theories regarding the life and death of the youngest ruler of ancient Egypt, Tutankhamun. His tomb was discovered in 1922 by the famous archaeologist Howard Carter, and since then his mummy has been subjected to an X-ray and later a CT scan. These investigations have answered a lot of questions and offered new clues on his life and death. Children, here in this slide I have given you an idea about the characters. King Tut, the last heir of a powerful family that had ruled Egypt and its empire for centuries. His preserved body was the first to be scanned. Second is Howard Carter, the British archaeologist who in 1922 discovered King Tut's tomb. His search caused great damage to the king's preserved body. Zahi Hawass is the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. He scanned King Tut's mummy for an accurate forensic reconstruction. Amenhotep III, King Tut's father or grandfather, was a powerful ruler who ruled for almost 4 decades. Amenhotep IV. He promoted the worship of Aten and changed his name to Akhenaten. He outraged the country by attacking Amun, a major god, by smashing his images and closing his temples. Children, here for your reference, I have given the expressions, idioms with its meaning. Please write down this in your notebook. Let's start explanation of the chapter. He was just a teenager when he died, the last heir of a powerful family that had ruled Egypt and its empire for centuries. He was laid to rest laden with gold and eventually forgotten. Since the discovery of his tomb in 1922, the modern world has speculated about what happened to him, with murder being the most extreme possibility. Now leaving his tomb for the first time in almost 80 years, Tut has undergone a CT scan that offers new clues about his life and death and provides precise data for an accurate forensic reconstruction of the boyish pharaoh. He died at a young age. He was the heir descendant of a powerful family. The family was ruler of Egypt and its empire. The family had ruled it since many centuries. During his cremation, Many ornaments of gold were put on him. Finally, after many days, nobody remembered him. His tomb was discovered in 1922. The modern world is trying to guess what could have caused his death. It is felt that murder is the most unlikely cause of his death. Name of the person buried under the tomb is Tut. After 80 years from taking out corpse of Tut from his tomb, CT scan has been done, and this may give some more hints about his life and cause of his death. This may provide accurate data about events that caused death of this boy, king of Egypt. An angry wind stirred up ghostly. Dust devils as King Tut was taken from his resting place in the ancient Egyptian cemetery known as the Valley of the Kings. Dark-bellied clouds had scudded across the desert sky all day and now were veiling the stars in cascade grey. It was 6 p.m. on 5 January 2005. The world's most famous mummy glided head first into a CT scanner brought here to probe the lingering medical mysteries of this little understood younger ruler who died more than 3,300 years ago. A strong wind started a dangerous storm full of dust. This happened while corpse of King Tut was being taken out from the tomb. Here only the kings of Egypt were cremated, so the place was known as Valley of the Kings. Clouds appeared black from the earth. During whole day, these were moving quickly in the sky of the desert. Now it was 6 p.m. on 5th January 2005. The clouds had hidden the stars. Colors of the sky was light grey. The most famous mummy of the world was put into CT scanner machine. The head of the mummy was put first. The mummy was brought to investigate the secrets yet to be discovered about the young ruler. This ruler Tut had died more than 3,300 years ago. All afternoon, the usual line of tourists from around the world had descended into the cramped, rock-cut tomb some 26 feet underground to pay their respects. They gazed at the murals on the walls of the burial chamber and peered at Tut's gilded face, the most striking feature of his mummy-shaped outer coffin lid. Some visitors read from guidelines in a whisper, others stood silently, perhaps pondering Tut's untimely death in his late teens, or wondering with a shiver if the pharaoh's curse, death or misfortune falling upon those who disturbed him, was really true. During that afternoon, as usual, tourists from all over the world had gathered around the tomb. The tomb was very narrow and it was made by cutting a rock. It was 26 feet below the ground. All the tourists had come there to pay their respect to the young king. The tourists stared at the painting made on the wall of the room where Tut was buried. They carefully looked at the golden-colored face of Tut. This was the most noticeable aspect visible from the lid of coffin. The coffin was shaped like a mummy. Some visitors were reading a guidebook in a low voice. Others were standing silently as if thinking carefully about the unexpected death of Tut during his teenage. They were also thinking with a fear if the curse associated with the mummy was really true. It was believed that anybody who disturbed the pharaoh would either die or have bad luck. The mummy is in very bad condition because of what Carter did in the 1920s, said Zahi Hawass, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, as he leaned over the body for a long first look. Howard Carter, was the British archaeologist who in 1922 discovered Tut's tomb after years of futile searching. Its content, though hastily ransacked in antiquity, were surprisingly complete. They remain the richest royal collection ever found and have become part of the pharaoh's legend. Stunning artifacts in gold, their eternal brilliance mean to guarantee resurrection, caused a sensation at the time of the discovery and still get the most attention. But Tut was also buried with everyday things he had worn in the afterlife: board games, a bronze razor, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine. Zahi Hawass was a high-level officer of the department that took care of old monuments in Egypt. He was the first person among the visitors to bend and to look carefully at the mummy. He looked at it for a long time. He declared that condition of the mummy is bad because of damage caused by Carter to it in 1920s. Full name of Carter was Howard Carter. He was a British archaeologist. He had discovered the tomb of Tut after years of unsuccessful searching. The contents of the mummy were damaged because of actions taken without much thinking. But all the contents of the mummy were available. Nothing had been taken away. The contents of the mummy were the richest content of a royal family ever found. Those were the part of the tradition of Pharaoh. Extraordinary ornaments of gold of everlasting beauty were placed in the mummy. It was believed that these ornaments would guarantee that someday Pharaoh would be alive again. When the tomb was discovered, this belief caused lot of interest and excitement. Even today, lot of attention is paid to this belief. Tut was buried with almost everything he might need during his life after that. Board games, a bronze razor, undergarments and boxes full of food and wine were placed in his grave. After months of carefully recording the pharaoh's funerary treasures, Carter began investigating his three nested coffins. Opening the first, he found a shroud adorned with garlands of willows and olive leaves, wild celery, lotus petals, and cornflowers. The faded evidence of a burial in March to April. When he finally reached the mummy, though he ran into the trouble, the ritual resins had hardened, cementing Tut to the bottom of a solid gold coffin. No amount of legitimate force could move them. Carter wrote later, what was to be done? Carter carefully made a record of every valuable item found in the tomb of Pharaoh. It took many months to complete this task. After that, he started investigating the three coffins which were placed within another coffin. In the first coffin there was second coffin, and in the second coffin there was third coffin. When Carter opened the first coffin, he found a cloth spread in it. The cloth was decorated with garlands made of leaves and flowers. It was an unclear evidence that the burial had taken place in the March and April. This was inferred because those flowers were available only during that time of the year. After opening other nested coffins, he reached the mummy. Now he faced a problem. The customary gum used in the coffin had become hard. Now Tut's mummy was sticking to the bottom of the coffin made in solid gold. He tried to forcefully remove the mummy from the coffin. He used acceptable and correct methods to remove the mummy so that neither the coffin nor the mummy is damaged. He did not know what should be done. The sun can beat down like a hammer this far south in Egypt, and Carter tried to use it to loosen the resins. For several hours, he set the mummy outside in blazing sunshine that heated it to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. Nothing budged. He reported with scientific detachment that the consolidated material had to be chiseled away from beneath the limbs and the trunk before it was possible to raise the king's remains. The sun is very hot in that southern part of the Egypt. Carter tried to use heat of sun to melt the resin. For many hours he kept the mummy in very hot sunshine. The sunshine heated the mummy to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. It is equal to 65 degrees Celsius. But nothing happened to resin. It did not melt. He wrote that the solidified resin had to be broken using a chisel. This method was not a scientific method. He wrote that breaking of resin from below the arms, legs, and the body of a mummy was necessary. It was required to remove the mummy of the king from the coffin. In his defense, Carter really had little choice. If he had not cut the mummy free, thieves most certainly would have circumvented the guards and ripped it apart to remove the gold. In Tut's time, the royals were fabulously wealthy, and they thought or hoped they could take their riches with them. For his journey to the great beyond, King Tut was lavished with glittering goods, precious collars, inlaid necklaces and bracelets, rings, amulets, a ceremonial apron, sandals, sheaths for his fingers and toes, and the new iconic inner coffin and mask, all of pure gold. To separate the dirt from his adornments, Carter's men removed the mummy's head and severed nearly every major joint. Once they had finished, they reassembled the remains on a layer of sand in a wooden box with padding that concealed the damage. The bed where Tut now rests. Carter justified his action by saying that no other option was available at that time. If he had not cut the mummy to remove it from coffin, thieves would have broken the mummy to remove gold. Thieves would have found some method to dodge the guards put there to protect the mummy. During the times of Tut, people of royal family were extremely rich. They thought and also hoped that they would be able to take their wealth and treasure with them after their death. For the life after death, several shining and precious things were placed in the tomb of Tut. These things included precious collars, inlaid necklaces and bracelets, rings, amulets, a ceremonial apron, sandals, sheaths for his fingers and toes. A mask was also placed in the very beautiful coffin. All the things placed in the coffin were made of gold. To separate ornaments from Tut, workers of Carter removed the head of mummy. They also cut almost every major joint of the mummy. After removing all the ornaments, they once again joined the body. They put a layer of sand in the wooden box and then placed the body in it. They put some packings and cushions to hide the damage caused to the mummy. Presently, the mummy of Tut lies in this wooden box. Archaeology has changed substantially in the intervening decades, focusing less on treasure and more on the fascinating details of life and intriguing mysteries of death. It also uses more sophisticated tools, including medical technology. In 1968, more than 40 years after Carter's discovery, an anatomy professor x-rayed the mummy and revealed a startling fact. Beneath the resin that cakes his chest, his breastbone and front ribs are missing. The archaeology has changed to a great extent. Between decades that have passed since then. It does not give much importance to the valuable things. It gives importance to interesting details of life. It is curious to know secret reasons of death. Nowadays, archaeology uses advanced and complex methods. This includes technology being used in medical science. The medical technology was used after more than 40 years of discovery made by Carter. A professor of anatomy used X-ray to investigate the mummy. He discovered a shocking fact that mummy covered by resin did not have a breastbone and front ribs. Today, diagnostic imaging can be done with compound tomography or CT, by which hundreds of X-rays in cross-section are put together like slices of bread to create a three-dimensional virtual body. What more, what a CT scan reveal of that than the X-ray? And could it answer two of the biggest questions still lingering about him? How did he die? And how old was he at the time of his death? Nowadays, many investigations can be done by taking photos through magnetic waves. The cross-section through a solid body can be calculated by computed tomography or CT scan. In this technique, hundreds of X-rays are taken. These photos are then combined together to indirectly form a three-dimensional photo of the body. Something was known about death through X-ray. What more would be known through CT scan? Can this answer two biggest questions about the death? How did he die? And what was his age at the time of his death? King Tut's demise was a big event, even by royal standards. He was the last of his family's line and his funeral was the death rattle of a dynasty. But the particulars of his passing away and its aftermath are unclear. Even within the royal family, death of Tut was a big event. He was the youngest heir in his family. His death and funeral was starting point of many more deaths in his family. Amenhotep III, Tut's father or grandfather, was a powerful pharaoh who ruled for almost 4 decades at the height of the 18th dynasty's golden age. His son Amenhotep IV succeeded him and initiated one of the strangest periods in the history of ancient Egypt. The new pharaoh promoted the worship of the Aten, the sun disk, changed his name to Akhenaten or servant of the Aten, and moved the religious capital from the old city of Thebes to the new city of Akhetaten, known now as Amarna. He further shocked the country by attacking Amun, a major god, smashing his images and closing his temples. It must have been a horrific time, said Ray Johnson, director of the University of Chicago's Research Center in Luxor. The site of ancient Thebes, the family that had ruled for centuries, was coming to an end. And then Akhenaten went a little wacky. Amenhotep III was either father or grandfather of Tut. He was a powerful king. He had ruled Egypt for almost 4 decades. He was the most powerful king from the 18th family that ruled the Egypt. His rule is considered the best period for his country. Amenhotep IV was son of Amenhotep III. He became king after the death of Amenhotep III. His rule is considered the most usual period in the history of ancient Egypt. The new king, Amenhotep IV, started worship of Aten, meaning the sun. He changed his name to Akhenaten. The city is now known as Amran. Amenhotep IV gave more surprises to his countrymen when he attacked one of their god, Amun. He broke idols of Amun. This god was ancient Egypt deity, and he also closed all the temples of that god. Ray Johnson was the director of the research center of University of Chicago in Luxor, said that this center was the location of ancient town of Thebes. He said that that period must have been a very fretful time for the people residing in that country. The family of Amenhotep IV had ruled Egypt for many centuries. It appeared to them that the rule of this dynasty was about to end. Amenhotep IV had started behaving in absurd manner. After Akhenaten's death, a mysterious ruler named Samenkhkare appeared briefly and exited with hardly a trace. And then a very young Tutankhaten took the throne. King Tut, as he is widely known today. The boy king soon changed his name to Tutankhamun, living image of Amun, and oversaw a restoration of the old ways. He reigned for about 9 years and then died unexpectedly. After the death of Amenhotep IV, Samenkhkare became a ruler. He is not well known in the history. He died without making any impact to the life of people. After him, a very young person, Tutankhaten, became the king. Today he is popularly known as Tut, and the king who was a boy changed his name to Tutankhamun, meaning to this name is incarnation, avatar of god Amun, meaning that the god Amun has come to the earth in the form of Tutankhamun. He once again established the previous customs. He ruled for about 9 years. He died unexpectedly. Nobody had imagined that he would die so soon. Regardless of his fame and the speculations about his fate, Tut is one mummy among many in Egypt. How many? No one knows. The Egyptian Mummy Project, which began an inventory in the late 2003, has recorded almost 600 so far and is still counting. The next phase, scanning in the mummies with a portable CT machine donated by the National Geographic Society and Siemens, its manufacturer. King Tut is one of the first mummies to be scanned, in death as in life, moving really ahead of his countrymen. In spite of his fame and guesses about his death, the mummy is just one of the many mummies in Egypt. Nobody knew how many mummies are there in Egypt. The Egyptian Mummy Project started in later part of 2003. Till now, the project has found about 600 mummies, and the search for mummies is continuing. It is hoped that more mummies may be found. The next stage or step in the project is scanning of mummy with portable CT machines. These machines have been donated by National Geographic Society and Siemens. The machines are manufactured by Siemens. King Tut is one of the first mummies that would be scanned during his lifetime. Tut was the first among his countrymen. After that, also, he is royally ahead of his countrymen for scanning. A CT machine scanned the mummy head to toe, creating 1700 digital X-ray images in cross section. Tut's head, scanned in 0.62 mm slices to register its intricate structures, takes on every detail in the resulting image. With Tut's entire body similarly recorded, a team of specialists in radiology, forensics, and anatomy began to probe the secrets that the winged goddesses of a gilded burial protected for so long. A CT scanning machine scanned the mummy of Tut from head to toe. It created 1700 X-ray images of the body. Tut's head was scanned at an interval of very small distances of 0.62 millimeters. These images recorded every complex details of mummy. The image of scanning of head looks quite strange. The entire body of Tut was scanned in similar manner, and its images were recorded. Scientists of various fields started investigations about secrets of the mummy. The burial place was considered a holy place. There was an image of goddess that had wings. Since very long time, it was believed that this goddess was protecting the burial place. The night of the scan, workmen carried Tut from the tomb in his box. Like pallbearers, they climbed a ramp and a flight of stairs into the swirling sand outside, then rose on a hydraulic lift into the trailer that held the scanner. 20 minutes later, two men emerged, sprinted for an office nearby, and returned with a pair of white plastic fans. The $1 million scanner had quit because of a sand in a cooler fan. Curse of the Pharaoh, joked a guard nervously. The scanning was done in night. During that night, workers carried the coffin of Tut from his tomb on their shoulders. They climbed a sloping pathway and then a flight of stairs. They reached the area outside the tomb. Because of wind, the sand was moving in a circular way. They entered a lift that was being operated through a hydraulic pump. They put the coffin into a trailer. The CT scan machine had been mounted on this trailer. After 20 minutes, two men came out of the trailer. They ran towards nearby office. They came back with two plastic fans of white color. The very costly scanner had stopped functioning because sand got into the cooler fan of the scanner. A guard anxiously said that cooler fan stopped functioning because of curse of Pharaoh. Eventually, the substitute fans worked well enough to finish the procedure. After checking that no data had been lost, the technicians turned Tut over to the workmen who carried him back to his tomb. Less than 3 hours after he was removed from his coffin, the Pharaoh again rested in peace where the funerary priest had laid him so long ago. Finally, the scanning was completed with the help of replacement fans. Technician checked and confirmed that every data had been collected in the machine. Then technicians handed over Tut to workers. They carried Tut back to his tomb. In less than 3 hours, the king was back to his tomb. It was the place where, after the funeral, he was placed by the priest very long time ago. Back in the trailer, a technician pulled up astonishing images of Tut on a computer screen. A grey head took shape from a scattering of pixels, and the technician spun and tilted it in every direction. Neck vertebrae appeared as clearly as in an anatomy class. Other images revealed a hand, several image views of the rib cage, and a transection of the skull. But for now, the pressure was off. Sitting back to in his chair, Sahi Abbas smiled, visibly relieved that nothing had gone seriously wrong. I did not sleep last night, not for a second, he said. I was so worried, but now I think I will go and sleep. In the trailer, a technician made a wonderful images of Tut on the screen of a computer. With the help of several dots spread all over the screen, shape of a head was created. Then technician rotated and tilted the image of head in every direction. The bone of the neck in the image was as clear as a chart would be in the class of anatomy. The author tells us here the other images were too. The images of hand, rib cage, and views inside and skull. Now there was no pressure of work. Zahi Abbas sat in the chair. His back was touching the backrest of the chair. It was clearly seen that he was now a relaxed person because nothing had gone wrong while scanning. He said that during previous night he had not slept for even for a second. He was worried. Now he wished to sleep. By the time we left the trailer, descending metal stairs to the sandy ground, the wind had stopped. The winter air lay cold and still, like death itself, in this valley of the departed. Just above the entrance of Tutstone stood Orion, the constellation that the ancient Egyptians knew as the soul of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, watching over the boy king. We left the trailer by coming down the metal stairs and stepped on the ground that had lot of sand. By this time the wind had stopped because of winter season. The atmosphere was cold. There was no movement of anything, just like nothing moves after death. Nothing was moving in this valley of death. Author has called it Valley of Death because all pharaohs were buried in this valley. Just about the entrance of the tomb of Tut, an image of Orion has been made. According to beliefs of ancient Egypt, Orion is the god of life after death, and this god was watching the boy, King Tut, from far. Children, here I have given textual exercise. Write down all these question answers in your notebook and learn well for the upcoming exams. Thank you.